Winning the Super Bowl cements your place in NFL history. It's something no one can take away from you. But what about the teams that fell just short? The runner-ups, the teams that couldn't get it done on the biggest stage. They're usually forgotten the moment the confetti falls. But today, I like to change that. So, with the NFL season right around the corner, I thought it was time to give the losers their flowers. Well, at least some of them. Today, I'll be ranking the last 10 Super Bowl losers from worst to first. And believe me when I say, number one took some time to decide upon. Welcome to Full-Time Takes. Let's ride. We got to start somewhere, so at 10th place, aka last, the 2021-22 Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals that season went on a Cinderella run through the AFC, rivaled by few. Everything, I mean everything went right for them, which they have not been able to replicate. In terms of Super Bowl losers, just based on team and roster, they're definitely not the best. Cincinnati allowed a league-leading 51 sacks that season, which was evident based on the fact that at times throughout the season, and even in the Super Bowl, their offense couldn't get into a flow. They had the team of destiny, and then they ran into a certain scary man named Aaron Donald. They weren't the best statistically, and they were never dominant. They just made clutch play after clutch play, especially on defense. But there's got to be a last place, and unfortunately, they're here. Moving on, we've got our latest addition to the losing column of Super Bowl losers, the 25-26 New England Patriots. I definitely had a debate between spots 9 and 10, but I give the edge to New England. The fact New England got back to the dance this quickly after the Bill Belichick era is impressive and, quite frankly, a minor miracle. The Patriots' strength this past postseason was their defense, who stepped up big in January. What really puts them over, so low on this list was the horrible offensive play. I'd give you a $20 bill if you went back, watched the film of every single one of their games, and were able to find a sustained offensive drive. Don't quote me on that. That offense, especially their young quarterback Drake May, couldn't do a thing. Since he was more balanced, yes, but New England was better on defense and the competition was much better. I shouldn't say much better. It was definitely better. 4 top 5 defenses in your run, including the team you lost to, yes, but still. That's crazy. So personally, I'd rank this year's Patriots just slightly above that Bengals team. 8th, we have a team that is at a very bitter place in my heart. The 2024-2025 Kansas City Chiefs. That team eliminated my Buffalo Bills in the AFC Championship. The 24 Bills, probably the best season from the Bills this decade, at least in my opinion. Kansas City finished 15-2 in the regular season, but while keeping my bias aside, they are definitely at the low end of this ranking. In the regular season, they finished 11-0 in one-score games, and then added another one-score victory in the postseason. Don't mind who it was against. That was never sustainable, and I think it was definitely proved by their blowout loss in the Super Bowl, 40-22. Mahomes, yes, he still made his plays, especially in the postseason, and the defense led by C. Spagnuolo carried them for the most part. We still have to give them their flowers because when it comes to in the clutch, this team was one of the best just to ever do it. Whether it was their performance and calmness, or just pure luck. The fourth quarter was when KC was at their best. Philadelphia definitely exposed their offensive flaws, especially offensive line and receiver. This team from principle alone is better than spots 9 and 10, but is not a juggernaut. Man, I know Buffalo would have at least given that Eagles team a fight. Gosh, I miss them. Enough with my Bills propaganda, enough with my Bills loving. Anyways, these next two are, once again, a big debate. But we have the 2016-2017 Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons have not won a playoff game since this run. Don't quote me on that once again. And believe me when I say this run was really freaking good. Their offense scored at a historic pace and had the MVP of the NFL season in Matt Ryan. Ryan, along with Julio Jones, Devontae Freeman, and being led by Kyle Shanahan, they led the league in points per game with 33.8. And scored 540 points that season, which is tied for 7th most of all time. Their defense was weak, and even though they made big plays in the postseason, they were 27th in the league. Yikes. Also, what I've been avoiding, and this is what the team is remembered for, how they gave up a 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl against the Patriots. I was doing my sports education class and reviewing that game, and I went back to it. Really? I was reviewing the game and you went back to it. The Falcons play 93 snaps on defense. That is equivalent to a game and a half of defense. Atlanta's stellar offense, which is one of the best ever, did not score after going up 28-3. Everything went wrong for the Falcons in the Super Bowl. They had multiple little mistakes, like penalties, which stunned momentum. You could make a whole video on that collapse. And I think the main reason the Falcons are this low is because of their defense. That was their main weakness. Yet, it wasn't the main reason they lost the Super Bowl. In one of the craziest Super Bowls of all time, they were on the losing side. And they are at spot 7. 6th, right in front of them, we got the 2018-2019 Los Angeles Rams. It was a real debate with this Rams team and the Falcons, but I chose this Rams team for a couple of reasons. In the regular season, they finished 13-3 with Jared Goff, Todd Gurley, and Brandon Cooks being coached by Sean McVay. This team and the Falcons were actually very similar, at least when it comes to offense, much more than I was aware of before I made this video. The Rams this season were second in the NFL in points per game. Obviously, they would not be in this video if they didn't lose the Super Bowl, and boy, oh boy, that team went out sad. They lost 3-13 to, once again, the New England Patriots. I'm noticing a pattern in this video. The Rams had one of the most efficient offenses of the 2010s, and it went flat in the biggest game of the year. They had the defensive player in the year in Aaron Donald, and another defensive juggernaut in Ndamukong Suh. But besides that, they weren't really all that great on defense. They were 19th in yards allowed, and were mediocre and okay, I think would be the two words to describe them. For the ranking, I've got this Rams team above the Falcons because they were more balanced and had a more complete roster. And the Rams Super Bowl loss was bad, but I don't know if you can rival that Falcons team, man. 28-3. Crazy. All right, halfway through our ranking, and this is where the teams go up and the itch. Wait. And this video gets more interesting. Sorry for the pause. It wouldn't be a YouTube video, though, if I didn't ask you to please like this video and click that subscribe button. I wouldn't be asking if it didn't mean a lot to me. Thank you. At number 5, we got the 2022-2023 Philadelphia Eagles, who lost to the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 56. The Eagles had one of, if not the best performances that resulted in a loss in Super Bowl history. Hurts had probably the best game of his entire career in the Super Bowl, but the Chiefs played better, which has been a theme of the reign of terror. This Eagles team was a very good and complete team, but a step below the Eagles team that ended up winning the Super Bowl in 2024. They had an elite scoring offense with Jalen Hurts breaking out and receivers A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith performing well. And don't forget about that elite offensive line led by Jason Kelce and Lane Johnson. They had both the best offensive line and defensive line in football. Talk about building the trenches, man. But there are 2 reasons why they're only at spot 5. First, and the football reason, is that their defensive scheme that season was very passive, for lack of a better term. And when I say passive, I mean they rarely blitz. And they often play to keep everything in front of you, soft zone. And this actually cost them the Super Bowl, with Mahomes not getting sacked one time and picking apart that Eagles defense, scoring 38 points. Secondly, the 4 teams ahead of them had overall better teams and rosters. At our next spot in this video, we've got the 2019-2020 San Francisco 49ers. And if you do disagree with any of these teams, drop a comment below telling me why. We'll start out with their strengths and what made them so good. Also, can I say, I'm just having trouble plugging for the channel, man. I just want to share sports. Their pass rush was a formidable unit that was built by 5 former first-round picks and was practically unstoppable. Not just the pass rush, but their defense was so talented as a whole that Robert Saleh, the mastermind of a defensive coordinator that he is, could constantly rotate players to keep them fresh. It was perfect. Offensively, they had a complex run game that not only masked their quarterback issue, but was unstoppable, especially in January. To put in perspective, the 49ers scored 37 points in the NFC title game. Jimmy Garoppolo threw the ball 8 times. That is insane. But there's one thing that truly puts him at number 4, and it's that man, Jimmy Garoppolo. Garoppolo's limitations might be the reason the 2019-2020 Chiefs aren't on this video. He was exactly what the 49ers needed when they were up, but when the pocket was collapsing or when they needed to pass, he struggled. And once the 49ers couldn't get the run game going during the Super Bowl, Jimmy was forced to throw, and it did not go well. In the 4th quarter of the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, they held a 20-10 lead at one point, mind you. He went 3 of 11 for 36 yards and a pick. I'm not sad about this loss. Sorry. We'll start out with our top 3 and maybe our most embarrassing loser of this video. Sorry, I'm laughing. Yeah, we're still really good. We have the 2020-2021 Kansas City Chiefs. All the Chiefs' weaknesses and issues, controllable or not, were exposed during the Super Bowl against the Tampa Bay Bucks. They got destroyed, losing 31-9. Mainly the injuries on their offensive line were the problem, because Patrick Mahomes might have been pressured more than any quarterback this decade in a single game. Besides, maybe Patrick Mahomes. Eagles Super Bowl? Patrick Mahomes played 60 minutes of his own worst nightmare. Also, their vulnerability against physical rushers, a la the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, cooked them in the Super Bowl. But the reason this team is so high is because of the true offensive dominance. The chemistry and talent shared by the trio of Mahomes, Kelsey, and Hill is matched by probably no one in the entire modern era. Then you had the offensive mastermind cooking it all up, Andy Reid, in his prime, coaching the Kansas City Chiefs and constantly helping them win close games and exploit coverages. Combine that with how great they were at home and in the red zone is why they finished 14-2 and are so high on this list. It is a shame for them, not for most fans, including myself. I love looking back on the Super Bowl, though. It did end poorly for the Kansas City Chiefs. For this next one, history will always remember the winner of the Super Bowl. But 2017-2018 Patriots deserve their flowers. The Patriots played the best of any loser on this list. They lost to the Eagles, led by backup quarterback Nick Foles, 41-33 in one of the craziest Super Bowls of all time. Based on the context of this loss and the score, you would assume the offense was good or even great, and that the defense was an issue. And you'd be exactly right. The Patriots had the oldest MVP in NFL history, 40-year-old Tom Brady, who had 4,500 yards and was, well, Tom Brady. Rob Gronkowski, who was a first-team All-Pro player, and their backfield trio would excel in Josh McDaniels' offense. And all around, like I said, great offense. Well, despite their defense only allowing 18.5 points a game, which I believe was third, they're the reason this team is in this video right now. They gave up big chunks of yards at a time, and 336 yards a game, which was 29th in the league. Sounds like the Bills. The Eagles' offensive line exposed another one of the Patriots' issues. They lacked a consistent pass rush, which is one of the reasons they were 29th in yards allowed. Specifically, they had no consistent edge rusher that can consistently, once again, I'm going to say it again, consistently disrupt the quarterback. And the final domino that puts this team at spot 2, the inconsistency at quarterback. The unit wasn't terrible, but like I said, man, consistency is a big thing for this Patriots team. Lacked consistency and wasn't reliable, which is a theme of the Patriots defense. And once you include how Bill Belichick benched Malcolm Butler in the Super Bowl for some apparent reason, disciplinary reasons, you piece together why the Pats lost the Super Bowl. Lastly, we've got the best Super Bowl loser of the last decade, the 2023-2024 San Francisco 49ers. And man, this franchise has got to get another ring. 3 Super Bowl losses in the last 13 years. That's yikes. Well, I can't be talking as a Bills fan. 4 losses in 4 years. 4 losses in 4 years. Anyway, the 49ers so far have been the most complete team in the decade. We'll see if this year's Rams can rival that. And yet, they still didn't win the big one. This Niners team had the Offensive Player of the Year, Christian McCaffrey, a defense with several All-Pros, and had 5 All-Pros in offense. And they were all skill positions except Trent Williams and their fullback. Then you had Brock Purdy, who played Kyle Shanahan's system to perfection, leading the league in passer rating and yards per attempt with 9.6. After that, you had first-team All-Pro Trent Williams protecting Purdy's blind side and just cooking on the O-line. And then you had elite play from the linebacker and safety positions, with the 49ers leading the league in interceptions and were third in points allowed. So yeah, this team, as you can tell, was really freaking great. But a lot of their issues were exposed and were the thing that ended up losing them the Super Bowl. Besides Trent Williams, the offensive line had some major flaws, and the Chiefs bullied them defensively, with Purdy being constantly pressured. And there was a 3rd and 4 in overtime in the red zone that if the 49ers converted on that down, they probably could have scored a touchdown and, I would assume, win the Super Bowl. But Chris Jones got right past that O-line, pressured Brock Purdy, which led to the Niners kicking a field goal. But even more importantly, their poor special teams basically cost them a win. In the third quarter, the 49ers muffed a punt, which gave the Chiefs a possession in the red zone, which just one play later, they scored a touchdown. Finally, with 11 minutes left in the fourth quarter, the Chiefs blocked an extra point, which kept the lead 16-13, otherwise known as a field goal lead. That 1 point difference ended up letting them kick a game-tying field goal at the end of regulation. Then, the rest was history. The Chiefs scored a touchdown and the 49ers lost the Super Bowl. The most complete team of the decade couldn't get it done. And editor, once we're done editing this video, I want to see a counter of how many times I stuttered in this video. Yikes. Well, there we go, guys. We just ranked the last 10 Super Bowl losers from the Cinderella run of the Bengals to the demise of the 49ers. Thanks for watching. This is Full-Time Takes. I'm your host, Kellen. And if you're a fan of this video, check out another one. Another one. Peace out.